So this is the first session for the entire business analyst series. So we have been conducting few other series as well, the development series and the testing series in other part of the world. But in Sydney, Australia, like we have started this. So every year we come up with a new series. So this is the business analyst series that we want to touch base based on the request from the community. Right. So are you able to see my screen? Automation business analyst.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. That's good.
Yes.
So yeah. So this is the first session. So my name is Rajneesh Balakrishnan. I'm the 5-time UiPath Most Valuable Professional and the Director and Intelligent Automation Manager for To Automate Anything. And we are a proud authorized UiPath partner serving in this Australia region. My achievements, so I have been working around 20 years in the IT industry and having more than 10 years of automation experience. Having said that, worked last 6 years with most of the UiPath tools and have been certified as a UiPath Advanced RPA Developer and Automation Business Analyst and the Associate Certified, and also the UiPath Community MVP for the last 5 years, which have been a huge achievements from my side in this UiPath platform. So today's agenda, let us make it very simple. So I know like most of you are from non-business analyst background and want to join into business analyst. So I'll be making it pretty much simple, and you may stop me here and there if you want to put your all your questions in the chat while I talk. So if I will be addressing that questions once I finish what I am supposed to do, right? Or at the end of the meeting, like I will be try to answer most of your questions. Yeah, so today's agenda will be how to implement RPA in business and how to identify process. We'll go through the roles and responsibilities and different artifacts and the process analysis and solution design and how we do that in business analyst. So this is pretty much an introduction, but there are more sessions coming up. So where we'll be diving deep into our RPA business analyst and learning very specific on certain tools and technologies to help business analysts thrive in this career. Okay, so is there anyone like without the knowledge of UiPath? Have you have never heard about UiPath or RPA in your life? So how many of you just put yes or no in the chat? Or you don't know anything about RPA? Is there anyone? Feel free to say yes or no in the chat so I get a fair understanding of how many of you have, don't know about RPA. Okay, somebody got fundamentals a little bit, and yes, they don't know about, you don't know, right? So you don't know, or you know. Okay, yeah, I take it as a little bit, yes. Okay, so you all got a pretty much fair understanding, right? So those who know already, so yeah, if you don't know about RPA, that's fine. Or somebody have, some other than the UiPath skills somebody else have, that's also fine. So pretty much, like in a basic terms, if I want to explain RPA, so I will explain using the robots, software robots, automate processes, right? So what are processes? So, those are the usual work done in enterprise or in any companies, they do it manually, right? Of clicks or typings or copy paste kind of work. You copy paste again and again and again. And if you are doing that same thing on a regular basis, we call that as repeated work. So fundamentally, automating these kind of tasks or work using digital robots is called robotic process automation, right? So where does UiPath fits in this landscape? So UiPath is the #1 tool, not just this year. For the past 5 to 6 years, it has been consistently the #1 because of the innovation that it has put on the tools. And they have been consistently the best tool in the market, right? So that's why, like we are like try to learn about the advancement in UiPath, right? So why UiPath or why RPA? Because it is kind of non-invasive in nature, so which means you don't need to put a lot of efforts or build a lot of stuff in your company, build a lot of new systems in order to automate your process. Basically, it can interact with most of the systems there. So you can think about what kind of systems that you use in your process on regular basis, right? So it can be a user interface, right? User interface could come in a different flavors, right? It could be a web application that you see. It could be a desktop applications, right? Or it could be a PDF or something, right? So it all like you could see that in a screen, or you could navigate in that system using as clicks, mouse clicks, or keyboard events. So you just navigate into the system, right? The user interfaces. So any kind of user interfaces, the robots can communicate with and can automate those processes, right? And APIs, right? So APIs that works in the background, it can communicate with multiple system, and UiPath has strong integrations with multiple APIs, right? So another parameters to see is to easy to scale, right? So when you build a process, nowadays enterprise see most about the scalability, right? So at times, they are very busy with something, so the customer demand is more, and the serviceability must be very high, and you need to be sending servicing the customer at fast pace. Otherwise, your company will have a not have a good reputation, because you are not servicing the customers according to their needs. So at busy times, you need to scale the robots up just to like smash through all the requests. At times, it will be very silent. Nobody buys the product because of some weather conditions. During winter season, it doesn't sell much, or some summer season doesn't sell much, so not much sales happening on. At that time, the serviceability should come down. So at that time, you are going to reduce the number of robots, right? So these are all basically the human efforts that we are automating, right? So you can see that amount of the ROI that's going to return, because you're not going to waste any resources, but still, we are servicing the customer at the right time, and the serviceability is really high, right? Future proof, the technology has been really advanced each and every time. They come up with new technology, the AIs and things, it's going up, and every time, there is something new in the market, right? So the organizations are supposed to use those things, right? Use those. We have to nurture those technology. If you are going against the technology, nobody can stay in the market, right? So you have to nurture those technology and use it, whether it can be RPA, AI, or any kind of machine learning or whatever. The organization also has to go along with that and serve the customers. They have to show their presence in their social media and their websites, everything. So, it's future proof. So these robots can not only comply with the current technologies, it also any future technologies comes. Still, the UiPath is very good in adapting any new technologies so that the robots work perfectly. So by implementing all these things, obviously the customer experience will be very high, because they get what they want in the right time and in the perfect quality as well, right? So they are always satisfied by implementing RPA. So companies, organizations that has implemented RPA in the past has seen the absolute fantastic growth in their organization, right? So those who didn't apply, and you can see they may not be in the market as well, right? And the other main reason implementing the RPA, it helps the company to be compliant and regulation as well, comply to the regulations. The government regulations keeps on changing, right? Every time they may come up with new standards that the organization needs to follow. So if an organization is not following that kind of complaints, there will be hefty fines for them, so which is not good for the company, right? So which is That's why, every time they need to be compliant in whatever industry they might be. There are two different types of compliances. That is the industry level compliances and the government level compliances. So everything they have to go through. So RPA is kind of must for most of the companies, right? But even though it is must, we will see how we are going to implement into the organization, right? So on the next thing we need to understand before we implement the RPA, or before we suggest that an organization must need the RPA, we need to understand what RPA can do. This is only few of the things that RPA can do. It is capable of doing much more. It can read emails, right? Emails and the attachment. It can read contents from the emails and the attachments. And even now it is AI powered, so it can understand what kind of email it is and what kind of attachment it is. So if it needs to process the invoices, so it can go and process the invoices as well, right? So it can do a plenty of other things as well, like logging into different web applications, any kind of UI I told, right? So it can be a web application, it can be a desktop applications or any kind of APIs or anything. So it can still go there and interact with and get you information. And it can move files from one place to other. So now you all can imagine about you working in a computer, right? What is the maximum you are able to do in your computer? Right, so you use your keyboard, type information, you click here and there. So you just submit your request and click copy paste and click uh, paste again into another application, right? So you do all these things again and you open a forms and fill into the forms in a web application. A form could come in a web application. It can be a desktop application. So you fill in forms and you interact with the database, save something to the database and extract from the database. And you send reports across multiple systems, right? So you compare information and you do so many things, like you check weather information, you send a reply to an email and API information. With the API, you get a lot of information from SAP, from Salesforce, and so on, ServiceNow, right? It actually depends on what business you do, right? So in a business settings, when you are there, say, so you interact with multiple applications. So that actually you are performing a business process. If you are doing something in a business setting and you interact with more than one application, what actually you are doing is a business process, right? So if you're doing something, that's a process. And if you're doing the same thing again and again, that is called a repeated process. And what we are most interested in from the RPA point of view or UiPath point of view, the amount of repeated work that you do, right? And the cost involved in that, and how much you are spending in that by doing this repeated work. You're thinking from a one person perspective, but think from an organization perspective. There are so many resources that you are spending so many amount of time, right? So how much does that cost to the organization? Right? From an organization point of view, it is so huge. And those kind of repeated work is actually not a productive work for a company, right? So you are capable of doing much better creative work than the repeated work that you are doing, right? So those are the tasks that we have to automate. The companies are more focusing in automated nowadays. They call that as the unproductive work. So those unproductive work can be automated by a robot so that people can be more productive and do more creative work. So most organizations have already started implementing and have been significantly successful in automating those tasks, right? More than 50% of the work has been automated in most companies. And still they have a lot of work that have to be automated. So the more work they automate, still they have to automate even more. And how that is possible? Because by automating, they are actually improving their standards, their process in their organization, bringing more businesses and creating more value to the company, and even increasing more amount of work that still has to be automated. And that's how it happens. So RPA can do even much more than whatever I'm showing here. Typically, it can do pretty much all the work that you are dealing in the systems, interacting with the systems. The RPA can do that as well, right? So as a business analyst, is it required that you need to understand how the system actually work, how to automate, and how to write scripts and so on? So no, it is not necessary, but you need to understand what's the robot is capable of doing, right? What the robot is able to automate. So that if you are able to know, pretty much you can do this role quite well, right? So from what I have shown so far, talked so far, anybody have any questions till now? Okay, we'll drop silence. Okay, all good. Nobody got any questions. So, okay. So, one thing we are very much experienced so far is that automation first mindset. So, you cannot go and implement an automation directly in a company that easily, right? So it is kind of a mindset that somebody has to have right from the beginning, right, throughout the organization. And every person must be collaborative enough to do this automation, right? So it is kind of a mindset, right? So because the RPA actually learn your skill and it is going to automate most of the work. And the first question will come to people is it going to replace my job, right? So this question has been there for long, but nowadays nobody asks that question because everybody understand now that yes, it is going to automate most of our tasks, right? So now everybody got that understanding, and more, if you are part of that automation, then you can still be part of this revolution, right? It's a revolution that's going on, which is you are replacing most of the manual tasks, right? The repeated and mundane tasks, right? So when people get that understanding, so it is good for the organization. So it's a mindset. So everybody is collaborative and they are ready to share more information. The business is able to share more information on what they are doing manually. So those things can help the RPA team to implement this automation much faster, right? So this mindset should be cultivated within the organization so that it is pretty much easy. But we, as a business analyst, it is your job to create that awareness within your organization, going to talk to people and create some kind of knowledge in that platform to inform how this RPA works. And it is not to going to replace their job actually, but it is for to help the organization, right? So yeah, so as a business analyst, you have a tough job to do actually to share those kind of sessions with your customers, right? So as the first thing you will be seeing in an organization is what are the processes that are there that can be automated, right? So not everything can be automated in an organization. So there are few processes that you can automate and few things you cannot automate. So how do you evaluate that? So how do you shortlist those processes that can be automated, right? The first thing that you will be looking for whether it is a rule-based process, right? And it has very less exception rate, and they are doing it repeated. As a person, you can think if you're doing the same work again and again, you get bored, right? So you need to choose those kind of processes, and that has a consistent rule, certain rule that it goes with there is the data input data coming in, and we are doing this process, and this is the output, right? And the systems are really stable enough. So it works perfectly all the time. There is no exception at all. But there are some systems like one day it works in some other way, but another day, you have to do more workaround to make it work. So those are not the perfect system to work, but they have to do some, they need to stabilize their process, right? So that's the kind of process you cannot automate, but some processes that comes with a rule-based and repetitive action, and it has a standard input, and we know what's the output going to happen. And if you have that rules, and that exactly fits into your process, right? And people will ask like how long it will take. So yes, you identified a process, for example, invoice processing. So every day you go to your office, you log into the system, and find out there is an email coming with an attachment with an invoice, and you open the invoice and find that you find the exact amount and the customer and so many details to process the invoice. Now you go into another system, the invoice processing system, maybe SAP or Salesforce, whatever. So you just open that system and then put all the information in and click on the submit button, right? So this happens for one customer and that invoice is processed. But the same day, if you are getting hundreds of requests and you are the only person who is handling that, it's kind of a repeated work, right? So is this process a rule-based process? Yes, it is a rule-based process, right? So it has a very low exception rate because you get the input and the inputs are standard. You get a structured format of PDF, so it has very low exception rate. The system is stable. Does it have repetitive action? Yes, because you are doing it again and again, so it has repetitive action. Does it have standard input? Yes, always the email comes in a readable format. The PDF is also readable. And stable process, yeah, the SAP and Salesforce system are, most of the time it is stable. So you are able to process. So everything ticks into this process. So now your job is to find out what are the systems involved and what are the step-by-step instructions that is required to perform this process, right? And once you identify all these things, people will ask, how long it will take to complete the process. It actually depends, right? It depends on the different number of screens that you need to navigate, and some type of applications, type of input, and some at times business decisions as well, right? So you have everything you are able to automate, but still the business says, until this end of financial year, we are going to do it manually for some reason, because another system is going through another upgrade. So, we are supposed to do this process manually until this financial year. So even though you identify everything and the team is ready to do that, still because of the business decisions, you cannot do that, right? So you need to focus on some other processes, right? So there is not just one processes in an organization. There will be hundreds of processes in an organization. If you go through each and everything, there will be so many processes in an organization or an enterprise. So how do you identify, which is the best one? So the best one is the process that giving you the maximum value in it, right? So the maximum value is you are going to save plenty of time in that by automating that process, and you are getting a ROI, biggest return of income. Like you are going to save like the maximum number of FTEs, right? So the FTE ROI, so these are the terms that you will be using more frequently, right? So return of investment. And FT is that full-time effort, right? So the full-time employee. So how many full-time employees are involving in doing that process? And that indirectly, it translates to the amount of hours that you are going to save by automating the process, right? So the more time you save, the more money you are going to save to the company, right? So that specific process that's going to save you the maximum number of time, that is the one your focus will be, right? So if that is not able to do for some kind of reason, like exceptions or some standard input is missing, so we do not waste a lot of our time analyzing that again and again. Like we go to the next process which gives the next maximum return, or which is easy to it's not only the return, but that is easy to implement from the developer point of view as well, right? Technically it must be possible, so you must be knowing a little bit of the technology as well, how it actually works. That is quite easy for you to translate the business requirement into technical requirement, and the technical stats into you can translate those into the business scenario as well. So you can explain to the business why something can be implemented or something cannot be implemented. Right. So first thing will be the process and procedures, right? So you identify the processes. So every processes will have a set of procedures, right? So process is a invoice processes that you are going to automate. But to automate the invoice processes, there will be a certain procedure, what the robot is supposed to do, right? The process is invoice. So the procedure is the step-by-step instruction for the robot to achieve that process. right? It will be like step by step. So it has a number of applications and number of navigations it has to go through. So that is the procedure, and you will be creating documentation across it, right? So that is called a process definition document. So you define the process, and that definition will have, all the procedure also documented. So you document everything, right? So we'll discuss more on this one. Okay. Any questions so far?
We ask questions, voice.
Yeah. Any questions so far?
All right, Raj. So before you start with the process, you need to assess like the suitability of the process, and this, I guess, there will be some tools that will try to estimate the complexity, like how long, like you don't want to just guess. Or so, what tools does UiPath provide, or do you need to make your own? What's available at the moment? Was the
Excellent. Sorry, your name?
Dimitar.
Okay. Hey, Dimitar, that's an excellent question. So, doing it manually has some risks, so that, we don't identify the complexity and things. And there are certain tools that we will be seeing. So this session is all about, discussing about those tools. So, which I'll be discussing. Thanks for that question. So I'll be talking about those tools available. Okay, so to address that question, like exactly that is where we are. So we need to talk about this platform called UiPath Business Automation Platform, right? So UiPath as a business automation platform, so it automates, as I told, it's an end-to-end process, right from the discovery and to the result. So it automates most of the things. So even in the requirements phase, although we have a lot of manual options to do that, right? In a manual way, we go and analyze the feasibility, the complexity, and stability, and so on, right? So we have this framework called, just 3 words in that: discover, automate, operate. So this is the framework that we will be going through. So what this framework actually means is a combination of tools. So there are plenty of tools available, around 50 tools available with UiPath. So we'll be exploring these tools one by one so that we understand what it does, right? So discover, as you know, this is the first phase of any automation. So that is where we discuss with the business on what to automate, right? So you can see there are tools like process mining, task mining, communication mining, and automation hub. So these are the tools that will help us what we are going to automate, right? And you can see that task mining. So this is kind of a tool that will capture and analyze tool, right? So you can use your systems that you are going to automate. So, and you will be interacting with various applications and systems, just like how people perform their daily work. So we can automate those things, and the tool will be suggesting you whether those tasks can be automated or cannot be automated. So there are 2 kinds of task mining in that. So one is the assisted task mining and the unassisted task mining. So the assisted task mining, we will be using the tool to identify whether that task can be automated by clicking and just recording the sequences and things, right? But unassisted task mining, what happens in that is like it will suggest us. So it is an AI powered tool. So what it will do is it will be collecting that information from a system, right? So it will be installed in a kind of a user machine. For example, like users like 2 to 7 7 users or 2 to 7 applications also will be used. So it will be run over days or few weeks. It will run in the system, and then that will it has some machine learning model that will suggest us what are the tasks that can be automated, or what most of the things it will suggest what can be automated in that, and also like put suggestions on what are the tasks that cannot be automated as well, right? So those kind of tools we will be exploring in another separate session. If we have one session specifically for discovery, so we'll be going through only the process mining, task mining, communication mining, and automation hub. So that's coming next week, next Wednesday. And so in that tool, so we also have the automation hub. So automation hub, it's kind of a web application. So that is given access to all the user. It's mainly a collaboration tool, right? So I told the automation mindset within the organization, right? So to enable that, so they provide this access to most of the users, and everybody have their freedom to submit their ideas, so that we know that how many processes are in an organization to automate. So that every idea that is submitted from an employee will go through an evaluation, and finally, one of the automation idea that is bringing the most savings will go through the automation phase, right? So this is excellent for collaboration and to identify opportunities, and also it gives option to prioritize what needs to be automated first, right? And also you can have a lot of documentation as well, right? And the communications mining, so it's an interesting tool that is most used these days in organizations, just mainly to automate few things that could not be automated in the past, right? So mainly the email communications, so those are highly unstructured, and also the social media post or any chats that chatting, right? Any chats that comes through the bots, right? So you chat with a company, so they receive that communication. So the different source of inputs. So these are all analyzed, right? And analyzed, and they suggest that what kind of tone it is, because it has a machine learning model. So, and also some natural language processing as well, because the text can come in different languages, and this suggests that how we need to communicate with them, right? It automatically provide you responses, so whether you decide to send or not, right? So it's a fantastic tool that we will be going through. So that is in the discovery phase. And we also have process mining, right? So process mining, it is, again, it deals with the data. So all your organization data will be given to process mining. And the process mining will analyze the data and tell, what are the bottlenecks and where you are spending more time in the process, and what can be automated or what cannot be automated. So we get a clear picture using the organization data of how it can be automated. And we also have a demo, a session on process mining as well, especially on the discover sessions, right? So we saw the discovery phase. In the automates phase, so I can see that that there are three core products in that you need to be aware of, which is Studio, and there is automation robots and orchestrator, right? So there are not many given here, but it is the orchestrator, the Studio, and the robot. So those are the three core products, but we have more AI powered product these days, like integration services, the document understanding, the data service, the AI center, and the action center, right? So everything for a different purpose. So these machine learning models, they can be involved and do a lot of stuff in the automation phase. So this is mainly for the developer, but you need to just understand what it is capable of doing, like with the Studio, what they are supposed to do, and with assistant, what they are supposed to do, or what a document understanding can do, right? So to read PDFs and process the PDF document and process invoices. So these are the things that document understanding can do. So similarly, there are multiple products. So you'll be going through like each product and understand what it is, why we need to use it, right? So you don't need to go and actually do the coding, or not to become an RPA developer. So if you want to, you can become, but for a business analyst, that's out of scope. Just to know, what it is and why it is, right? So the Studio is the one, the UiPath Studio is the one the developer used to create all their RPA programs, the workflows, and the process automation. So that's what they do. And in the AI center, so what they do is there are AI models in that. So they can, you can deploy models. The developer will be deploying models based on, what they want in the organization. And then we are able to monitor that, how the AI model is performing. Right. So we'll go through during the automate session, few of these important tools. I will touch base and explaining, why it is used, everything with a demo. Right. And I told about document understanding. It basically reads from the PDF, using different document OCR engine. OCR is called optical character recognition. So, some PDFs are pretty easy. So it is all standard PDF. You can copy from that PDF, but some PDF are handwritten and it's so difficult to read. So, we use different document understanding engine. So the OCR engine to read from the document depends on how complex the document is, right? So that's quite interesting subject, the document understanding wise, and it's quite advanced tool that we have in UiPath. And finally, we have the operate module. So in the operate section, what we do is, we mainly got test suite. Test suite is an interesting testing product, right? It performs both application testing and RPA testing. So anything that we need, so it is a kind of a quality hub for the entire UiPath automation platform. So everything you need, you do in the developer develops. So we have a similar parallel testing platform called as test suite. It can test each and everything. And we got orchestrator where we are able to control what the robot is supposed to do, when it need to do something, or how the data needs to be handled. So everything is in the orchestrator. Right. So we got insights as well. So operate is mainly to understand how the automation is going and how beneficial it is. So we get the holistic view of all the processes that is running. Right. Excuse me. So we have a separate session for each of this section, and so we'll take one specific product and explore that, and with a demo, and I'll explain how it actually works. All right. So I'll give you some time to go through this order to cash process example. Just go through this each of the point, just to, as a business analyst, you are going to analyze this for some time. I'll give you 30 seconds to 1 minute to analyze. Okay. So I have shared you the links for the next systems. For me, sorry, I mean the next sessions, the discover, automate and operate sessions. So I have shared the link there. So you can register for those, right? So between someone got a question. As a business analyst, which of the above tools needs to be used? Yeah, so as you can see, there are so many tools in UiPath. At times, even business analysts get confused, what tools they need to understand. So in my view, like you need to understand of each of these tools, what it is capable of doing, but master few of the tools. So in a discovery phase, I will say, the automation hub is the most commonly used tool. You can go with that, but understand what communication mining, task mining, and process mining are capable of doing, right? So in your organization, if they are using communication mining, then you can focus more on communication mining, instead of task mining or process mining. I don't think, every company use all the tools. They use certain tools. So go with, what they are using and what is needed for you to learn, right? So in the automate phase, you need to go with the studio, orchestrator, and robot. So you need to know what they are capable of doing, right? Not, you don't need to, learn each and everything, but need to just understand what it is capable of doing in that phase, automate. In the operate, you need to know about the orchestrator. Yeah, that's it. And something in the automation cloud as well. Okay, so it depends on your business scenario, where you are working and what they are using it. And also depends on your interest, what you want to learn, right? There are unlimited opportunities and potential in UiPath for you to learn. There are so many products available. So you can choose your favorite product and master that, right? So there is no one specific answer for that, unfortunately, but you have to learn most of the things these days. Okay, cool. So I hope you have quickly reviewed this order to cash process example. So I'll give you a quick walkthrough of what it is. So it's a e-commerce company that received a purchase order. So like that's something you do in eBay or Amazon, you just purchase order. So they receive an email that you have purchased something, your order is received. And one of the agent opens that email. So they receive an email, they open that email and checks the product code is present in the purchase order. So they need to make sure the product code is available. So if the product code is available, then he open the ERP system and perform some process. And if the product is not present, then he looks up in the master data file. So if it is in the master data file, then he opens the ERP system and then perform another process. So if it is present or if it is not present, both has certain process to do. So once the product code is provided, then he populates the required field in the ERP screen. So he opens the ERP screen and enter all the information that he sees in the Excel file or the purchase order, and then he validates the sales order. So what comes next is the sales order after the purchase order, because the invoice will be generated and it will be processed, right? And he need to reply to that email that this is the sales order in the attachment. So he received the purchase order and he is responding with the sales order. So this is the scenario, right? So as a business analyst, you will analyze and understand what's going on. So if you see, it's a very high level, but it explains us the scenario of how repeated this process is, right? So every purchase order, he's going through the email and populating the system and performing a business condition, right? So there is a certain rules that he follows every day. So hundreds of order he receives, so hundreds of times he need to work, and highly unpredictable work. At times it may be high, at times it may be low, right? So this is a current state of the process that is done manually. So you can think about the future state of the process. If it is automated, right, at times there is no sales order, robot doesn't needs to work. But if it receives sales order, it needs to be work high. At times, one robot is not enough to perform. They need multiple robots to work on the system, right? So as I told, when I talk about the current state, right? So it is the as is condition, right? So as a business analyst, so you'll be seeing how it is done manually, and these things like, there are tools available in UiPath, so which actually creates this current state of the process, right? And you can modify here and there to make it a perfect current state diagram. So it gives the systems like Outlook. It's a swim lane diagram that says ERP system, desktop, and Outlook. Start from the Outlook, they open the email and open the PO, and in the desktop they check, and the ERP they check something and perform some process, right? And there are conditions like if there is match found, yes or no. So you put it in a diamond shape, and all the operations that you perform, the process in the rectangle shapes, and start is a different notation and the end is the different notation, right? So there are you need to come up with the current state of the process. However, whatever the processes that you may work on, it will follow similar pattern, right? So the systems will be different and the transactions will be different, but you could come up with a current state of the diagram so that you can easily understand what it is, right? So that is the current state. And the future state, so you are going to, after discussing with the business stakeholders, now you go and discuss with the technical stakeholders to understand whether or this process can be automated or not automated. And you can see that there is this blue, all the blue color are manual and all the red color are automated, right? So all the manual steps can be automated except if the input is not structured, then you are going to process it manually. Maybe the rate of this will be very less, maybe 1 or 2%, but 90%, more than 90% will be automated. Okay? So that is how we get a clear understanding. Okay, the business stakeholders get an understanding. Okay, all these things will be done automated, right? So which is going to save a lot of time for them. So your role will be mainly a translator role between the business representative and the technical team. So you discover, automate, and monitor things. And your work with the team, right? So you collect all the information in terms of the stakeholder on the functional aspect of the processes. You document about the tools and look and analyze any existing documentation. So you process all the information and see, what there are multiple processes in that, and you cut down those processes into multiple smaller processes, and take it, you translate into a easy way that anybody can understand with the current state of the diagram and future state of the diagram, and take it to the technical team. So we have tools like the automation hub where you can submit those ideas and then prioritize, and then you work with the team and automate those processes. So you will be a key stakeholder as an RPA business analyst to deliver this automation project. So you play a major role if something is automated and if you're delivering value. So business analyst is one of the key personality. Right? So these things, again, it is to understand how much time it's taking in the as-is process. So open emails. So each and every interaction you need to understand with the business stakeholders, how long it will take for each step. For Outlook, they are spending 2 minutes, and for product code 1 minute. So you can combine all this into how long it is taking. And in automated, like you can see how much time it is done. So you will get a comparison of how it is done manually and how it is automated. So what's the time you're going to save, so that you can calculate the how much time saved and the cost saved as well, right? So we follow an implementation methodology. So where it starts with a kickoff and business case and technical validation and process analysis, solution design, development and testing, and UAT and deployment and hypercare and the project closure. This is the holistic view of the entire development lifecycle of a RPA project, right? So initially with the kickoff, so here mainly the roles of the solution architect and the project manager will discuss about this. and they come up with different documentation and check the customer readiness checklist and so on, and set up a team basically in the kickoff, right? And your job as a business analyst will start in the business case and technical validation, right? So you will be given a lot of ideas basically to do a process assessment and opportunity assessment, and you will do a lot of discussions with the business stakeholders, right? So mainly your job is to validating their business case value and the complexity, right? And then see whether or not the process can be automated, right? And going forward, you will be having your presence in most of this, almost all of the pro modules like process analysis. Your role is involved, so you create a PDD, right? You create UAT test cases and so on. And in the solution design, you actually review the solution design. Even though the developer creates that, you are going to review that, right? And you are going to do a lot of inputs even in the user acceptance testing phase and the deployment and hypercare phase, because you got the UAT use cases to validate there, right? Even in the project closure, you have to be there just to confirm the handover is done properly to the support team, and all the signups are done, right? And there are so many key activities that you will be performing in the entire UiPath implementation methodology model, right? So industry-wise, pretty much any industry, I don't need a list of industry, but pretty much any industry that has repeated work is what RPA is all about. It's pretty much applied wide in the government area, government, retail, technology, education sector. Name a sector, that, and there will be some kind of manual tasks. Even in the manufacturing industry, they have invoice processing, right? So certainly there will be some tasks that need to be automated, even in the manufacturing sector. So anywhere it is applicable, right? So yeah, if you have any RPA implementation or require any in-depth training in UiPath, you can contact me. I'm Rajanish Balakrishnan, the director of To Automate Anything, 5 times UiPath MVP. So any business that you can think of, like we automate it, we integrate, automate, and innovate to help our clients thrive, elevate, and celebrate. And yeah, thanks for this opportunity. So it's the question and answer section.
Hello?
Yeah, so who is that?
Am I audible? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Like,
Yeah.
I would describe my role from my personal perspective as a business analyst. It's a bit like 4 C's of a diamond: communication, collaboration, cost, and customer. That's how I would look at it. Let's say someone comes to you with a generic process to automate. You are there in a requirement gathering session. Are you allowed to say, yes, it is possible, but we need to break it down into, let's say, 10 phases possibly? Or are they really being cheeky? They want to get it all done in one go.
Okay, so yes, now straight away you cannot say it is possible, right? So if you are not able to automate, then you cannot say it is possible. So if somebody say, yeah, I need to automate this process, so you can say, yes, I'll have a analysis on your processes. So you can ask a lot of questions about the process, right? And you can check the feasibility assessment. You can perform a feasibility assessment. So you need to involve some technical stakeholders in that to analyze the feasibility and say whether it can be automated or not. But in a high level, you can understand how repeated the process is, how stable the application is, and how urgent it is for the team to automate, right? So you can understand all those concepts, and then then you can share your thoughts after you discuss with the technical team, and you can advise accordingly.
Yeah, thank you. From the same perspective, should I be worried if the data comes from 10 different databases? Let's imagine that way as a business analyst, or is it my role to say that, hey, it's coming from 10 different databases, deal with it? So
that's okay, like you can have the current state of the process, no matter how many database the values data flows from. So all you need to do is document that, right? So what are the database? You need to list all the data sources that it is coming from, and you will be asking questions. What are you doing with that data, right? So what's your pain point? So what are you trying to automate that, right? What is consuming most of your time in that? So you will be documenting the current state of the process, how they are doing it manually, and how long it is taking on each of their process steps, right? So you'll be documenting each and everything first. Listen carefully and document it thoroughly, so that it's easy for you to explain to the technical stakeholders.
thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Any questions? So there is a question.
If there's nobody else I can ask.
Yeah, Dimitar, go.
Okay, because it takes time to write and correct. So probably have a few, but let me see. Let me see now. First, very quick, simple is what does UiPath provide in terms of integrating with the business process management tools? Like, does it have its own for the companies that might not have like a mature business process management? So they have to sort of start with something, so they have like some sort of maturity model. And how does it integrate if the company is like more complex and they have already business process tools? So I have to actually utilize that thing. Actually, when you change the process to automate, then actually you have to feed back to align to that tool. Just a high level, what that it provides. And just so I don't lose the question, is I'm interested about the other option where not everything can be fully automated, but it acts like a augmented RPA. So somebody says like, do this for me, and then the person continues adding. So how experience in that area?
Okay, there are multiple questions in that. So this UiPath provide the tools and technologies for automation, right? So for doing their automation, like business process automation. So there are multiple tools that UiPath provides, right? So it depends on where they want to start. So they can start with automating few of their easiest processes first. Like what I will suggest in that is, start simple. Take one of your simplest processes and try automating that first, and see, what are your benefits in that. So then you can add more and more complex processes, and there are various tools in that. So in the discover phase, you have tools like Automation Hub. You can make use of. You can use UiPath Studio. You can use Orchestrator in the beginning, right? And slowly add more and more complex tools like document understanding. You can involve it later. Right, so that is the approach that we need to go one automation at a time, right? So that is one. And on your next question, so if you have something like, did you ask that you have already automation in place there?
So my first question was regarding actually, so my experience from Blue Prism when I started. I wasn't involved too long, but actually I took it like very, how to say, holistic approach rather than as somebody who has to technically solve problems. Yeah. So my conclusion was, if the process is not defined well, RPA can actually not make it faster, because it can make less reliable in terms of it's not defined well. So the problems will start to appear when we start actually automating.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So you need to have a good process. So that means if the business, there should be a proper documentation of the business process. If it's not documented, if they don't understand it, then it will be a problem when you try to automate. So then if they don't have mature business process tools, models, then you have to provide something through UI part, or integrate to their tools. So actually, whatever is produced is actually in line, is documented in the same way that, the old process was manual. Now it becomes automatic, but then it has to be aligned to that thing and how it affects the rest. So that type of integration, and does UiPath have tools to actually replace that thing in case they don't have yet good business process modeling tools? So that was the first question. I will not go to the next one.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I'm almost aligned with that. So yeah, so no matter how best the automation tool is, so still you need to define the process properly. Yes, we got the task mining and process mining in that too. That will eliminate most of that assumptions that we make. But having said that, we need to define the process correctly. So A plus B plus C equal to D, then if you put only A plus B, we are missing something, right? So we have to confirm before we automate something, right? So that's nowadays the processes are much matured than before. So we go through the proper process, right? So yeah.
So what I'm talking at, they might have like some documentation which is hard to see, but they're proper business process modeling tools where they define everything. So some parts can be automated, the system runs, and there's some manual parts. People do some manual things like through spreadsheets or whatever, and that has to be documented first properly. And now, when we automate, we need to sort of align to that thing better, to have that thing in a proper tool where everybody can see what's happening and where the issues are. So how does UiPath tool, how do UiPath tools integrate to those, general tools?
So, okay. So like, first of all, the process definition, right? So that is very important. So what your concern is, like, if we miss something, still UiPath have any tool to integrate and find it, right? So UiPath has integration with tools, but that's specifically for the process automation, but not for, like finding some deviation in the requirements. So requirements must be given by the business analyst, and it has to be processed, it has to be documented properly to do it perfectly, right? So that's the basics that we need to do. Whether you use Blue Prism or any other tool, still we have to follow that. But we got tools to like identify that process that can be automated or cannot be automated. So we have multiple tools and integrations. So we got communication mining, task mining, and process mining in the discovery phase. That will help you predominantly in that.
Okay,
right?
so thank you very much. So I don't want to hold too much time, but actually one simple thing that you don't have to answer now, but would be good actually to think, and maybe later. So for example, I know that UiPath would have some tools where, for example, somebody sends email, and then the email has to go to the right department, which can be automated. So based on the text, that it will do some NLP and say, okay, this is for whatever, it's for the DBA, this is for the architect, or so rather than sending to everybody and wasting everybody's time, it just goes to the right people and the right processing. Now, the thing that I'm interested is, are there actually add-ons, attachments that can do that thing in terms of, you have a meeting and the tool knows the agenda and just follows and starts search, the script, like what is being said during the meeting, and whether it follows the agenda. So when the agenda topic changes, it will just say, okay, start of the new topic, and all the start writing what was said. Just whether those tools are available in the pack.
Okay. Is it in the meeting itself? So go through the meetings.
So practically, the tool does not read, but actually listens. Okay,
Oh,
so it
okay.
says, okay, so this is the task that you have to be like rather than some sort of taking notes on the meeting.
Yeah.
Robot actually listens and takes notes, but it's aware of what was the agenda before that. It's aware of some standards that need to be followed. So it can just not write like somebody who's clueless about what's the in the company doing.
One simple answer to this question is yes, it is possible. So we have implemented a similar approach in one of the financial sector. So responding to customer queries, like reading through all the emails and routing it to the right department, the invoicing, the finance, and so on. So we have implemented that. So it is, one simple answer is communication mining can do that. And also there are various other tools with us if you want to understand the all the data. So we get all the source data and analyze, and it recommends what needs to be done. So yeah, we got tools in UiPath. Yeah, we can discuss it offline. I will share my
Yeah.
You can connect with me in LinkedIn to understand more about that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you, Dimitar. So very well done. Thanks, everyone. So yeah, based on the time, I can't take any more questions, but we will connect next week. Don't miss to join the next week's session, and we'll talk more. But you can connect with me if you have any more questions. Thank you very much, guys. See you all.
Thanks,
Thank you
Rajneesh.
so much for the wonderful
Thank you so
session.
much.
Yeah. See you in the next connect. Bye-bye. Bye
Yeah,
all.
thanks. Bye all.
Thank you. Bye.